Well, let me tell you something, brother. When I'm working on my 24-inch pythons, dude, I'm listening to Let's Find Out with Diego. Train, say your prayers, and listen to Let's Find Out with Diego. Ooh, what you gonna do, brother, when Let's Find Out with Diego runs wild on you?
Are you curious about the unknown, the unexplainable? Do you find yourself intrigued by the mysterious and paranormal side of our world? Join us on an adventure into the world of inexplicable discoveries and investigations that may someday give us the final answer as to what may be behind the veil of reality. The borders of space and time have opened once again, and transmitting from the mountains of West Virginia, it's time once again for Let's Find Out with Diego. The universe is waiting for you.
The borders of space and time have opened once again, and transmitting from the mountains of West Virginia. It's another episode of Let's Find Out with Diego. Thank you for taking this journey with me. On this episode of Let's Find Out, our guest is a musician and artist whose creations have traveled across the globe to grace both private and public collections. With a touch of mystery and a dash of thrill, he is set to mesmerize us with his personal encounters with the paranormal and unveil the enchanting world of his paintings. He will share his tales of blending and hiding Bigfoot within his captivating landscape. Recently, his work has been published in a book that has been described as a coffee table book with a challenge. Get ready to be enchanted by his artistry and the intrigue of the unknown. All this plus more. Please welcome back to Let's Find Out an amazing artist and one of the coolest dudes I know out there, Timothy Wayne Williams. My friend, welcome back to the show. It's been a while now.
Oh man, yeah, it has. Thank you so much for having me on. And what an amazing intro there. That was great. Bless you.
Thank you for that. No, it's one of those things. I mean, before we get started on the new book, and congratulations, by the way, it looks
thank you.
Pretty awesome. I've been following you on social media for a while, and I see that it's a whole collection of a lot of your paintings, and we're gonna get into that, my friend.
Yeah.
You were one of our earliest guests on the show, and we were just getting started. That was back, my gosh, about a year and a half ago, episode 13. So thank you for helping the show gain the speed that it needed. At that time, it was a bit challenging having guests come on the show. So I thank you again for trusting me, having you on as a guest.
No, it was absolutely my pleasure. I thought it was great. It was really enjoyable. And I appreciate you having me back.
Sure. We're going to go over a couple of stories you told back then, and I'm going to bring it back again because I think you're going to add something extra, which we didn't discuss, about some of your paranormal type of experiences. We finally got to meet each other in person not that long ago over the summer. It was in the Bigfoot Con in Wayers Cave, Virginia.
Yeah.
And I did wind up purchasing one of your paintings, and I showed you earlier. It's up in my wall in the studio, and I'm just getting started.
So cool. I love seeing that. That's awesome. Love that.
So with the paintings, and I know that you've been asked about a million times. So I'm gonna ask you this to be the 1,000,001 time I'll ask you this question. So why Bigfoot in your paintings? Were you always interested in the subject of Bigfoot? Have you seen something? How did this all get started?
Yeah, well, no, first of all, no, I have not seen a Bigfoot. I live kind of, in the suburbs of Indianapolis, so there's not a lot of Bigfoot sightings around here. But when I was, I'm kind of that age where I remember the show In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy, and I remember the day my dad came and got me and was like, "You got to see this show. There's this creature running around," and they showed the Patterson-Gimlin footage for the first time, or the first time I saw it. And it blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, there's the possibility of actual monsters in the world. And I mean, ever since then, we're talking, that's, I don't know, 70s. I mean, ever since then, I've been absolutely fascinated with the subject, Um, and, flash forward, I was a musician for a long time, a graphic designer for 32 years. And then one day I was, doing an oil painting. And, I've done regular fine art for years with modest success. I was okay. Um, and I started I was listening to a podcast, as a matter of fact, about Bigfoot, and it inspired me just listening to that podcast. I was like, that'd be kind of funny to just hide a Bigfoot in the background. I won't even tell the people, who are buying this painting. I'll just do it for my own amusement. I just thought it was kind of funny, and I didn't think much about it. I thought it'd be really funny if years later they were walking by that painting and just happened to catch it out of the corner of their eye, and they'd be like, "Hey, wait a minute." So I thought that would be cool, and so I started doing that, and I probably sold. I'm not even sure. Could have been a couple dozen paintings that had Bigfoot in them that I never told anyone. Once I started telling people, people really kind of got into it. You know, I did not think it would ever be a thing, and then I started putting them on social media, and it kind of blew up, and so here I am today.
Yes, and it's very interesting because you don't only paint Bigfoot, but you have also other types of paintings as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I do almost everything in the paranormal. I will say this is a little bit of a story, but I had a guy who wanted me to do a Wendigo. And I'm telling you, I started on that and it was so creepy to me. And I kept seeing the word Wendigo everywhere. I had a dream about, Wendigo. And it was just really weird that, I hadn't probably heard that word in a year, when this guy approached me about it. And then all of a sudden, like a couple days after I started this painting, I'm seeing that word everywhere. It creeped me out so bad I had to actually tell the guy, it's like, I'm sorry, I just can't do this painting. It's just too weird, you know. So yeah, that's one of the things in the paranormal I won't do if it's something that creeps me out or I think is kind of demonic. I'll leave that alone. But pretty much everything else is fair game.
It's true what you say because I don't know if you did because I know you already creeped out by the whole concept of Wendigo, but did you take a look and do some research on it? It's not a very pleasant creature whatsoever.
Yeah, I know it's horrifying. And the guy who commissioned me swore he saw one, and I was like, I was amazed. I was like, really? And you're alive today to talk about this? It was terrifying.
Oh, I mean, I would love to have him on the show. So, what was his reaction when you gave him the sad news? Say, hey, look, I can't finish this painting for you.
He was actually really cool about it. He's actually another podcaster. And he was like, you know what? I kind of understand. It's all good. If you don't feel good about it, you don't feel good about it. I ended up doing another commission for him that was different, but just not, Wendigo.
No, at this point, you do so much other amazing work. We can skip over the whole Wendigo anything anyway,
I
because
appreciate that.
they are very beautiful paintings, and I love when I go on the social and say, here's a new one, and the setup you have at the conventions are superb setups. I mean, it's not that hard to not want to buy one, to tell you the truth. Like I said, I did purchase one. Like I said, I have it in my studio, and which gets me to thinking about the types of backgrounds where you put Bigfoot in. I know recently you did one. It looks like it was around in a setting of a barn. So, how do you come up with the ideas on where Bigfoot will be hiding next?
I try to vary it quite a bit, but I can't always. Sometimes I get on a theme that I really like a real nebulous sky, lots of stars, maybe the Milky Way. I might do that 5 or 6 times, but I try to change them a little bit so I'm not, redoing a painting, the same painting every time. but I experiment with each one, and so yeah, I might take a general theme and do it, a few different ways. I guess I could say it like that. But yeah, I get inspiration anywhere. I've got a really cool creek that runs along the side of my property that is just absolutely crazy. I had a guy one time criticize my trees. They were like, "These are too gnarly, and the limbs, don't look like a real tree." And I sent that guy about 5 pictures of the trees along my creek bank. And I'm like, my trees are based on these, and yeah, he didn't ever respond back. But yeah, sometimes, I'll see a post from somebody who was on a hike and they took a really cool picture, and I might approach them and go, "Hey, can I maybe use that?" But 99% of the time, it's out of my head, or I'll take one of the, something I've seen, and I'll just kind of take from it. Maybe I really liked the sky in a certain painting, and maybe I'll do a similar sky. I try not to, you know, rip anything off, obviously, but you know, but as in all artists have throughout history, I do borrow, from ideas, I guess I could say.
No, and I reckon that's not uncommon. Just I guess with podcasters, musicians, painters, or even back in my days of wrestling, we all borrow from each other somewhat, and it flourishes into your own style and
Yeah.
sends your own message in a way. And I remember you telling me back on episode 13 that you've had paintings go all over the world, and I think there was a one particular
Yeah.
person. I don't remember what country they were from, but they really loved your artwork. So where did they wind up at?
Yes, my biggest collector is a wonderful lady who lives just outside of London, and she is probably on around 40 paintings, and it's unbelievable. Um, and if she's listening, shout out Kathleen, love you. And yeah, but yeah, I got paintings in Australia, Austria, Germany, France, most of the Scandinavian countries, Canada, obviously. I think one in Mexico. I think. So, and I'm probably leaving out a couple, but yeah. So they've gone all over. I've been amazed. It's crazy. It really is.
No, it's amazing. So give me a pro tip if you don't mind, because I've been doing online sales as well, and you would know more than anybody else. The prices of shipping have skyrocketed. How are you getting around it? Because I know shipping can get expensive, but how are you packaging these paintings, and how are you
Yeah.
I'm gonna say surviving, but how are you getting to afford these things? Just I can't even ship a T-shirt, and it's so expensive.
Oh yeah. No, you're absolutely right. It is. And I have to tell the people, who are interested in it right up front. I'm like, listen, this is going to cost us both a lot in shipping. And matter of fact, I sent something to Scotland just recently, and it was $88 to ship to Scotland, one painting. And so I pass on some of that, but I do take a bit of a cut in my profit of the painting just because I want my paintings out there, here and there. So I do sacrifice a little bit for my, European and Australian and wherever they go. I do, sacrifice a little bit just so I can get them here and there.
Yes, because the reward in itself is to have that painting arrive at somebody's home, and they're sitting
Absolutely.
there. They're going to
Yeah.
love the painting, and they're going to hang it. So that in itself is it's almost worth it, of course. So with
Absolutely.
how many of these paintings do you paint? Are you doing these once a week or several per week? Because I would assume that in order for you to sit down and visualize what you have to do, it can take quite a while. And then out of how long? Not only does it take, but when you finally realize, okay, this is perfect. This is how I want it.
Yeah, because I'm a working painter, professional painter. That's my only job. I have to paint constantly. I get up early, paint all day. Sometimes I'll paint into the evening. Sometimes right before bed, and I have horrible carpal tunnel because of it. But um, I paint all the time, and it's sometimes the smaller paintings I can do a lot quicker. I've developed a style that is it's I describe it as half realism, half impressionism. It's right in the middle, and I use a wet and wet technique. That means I don't have to wait for layers to dry most of the time, and so I can just keep going till the painting is done. So, if I stick on it all day, I can do like a 12 by 16 possibly in one day. And being a working artist, I have to, especially in this horrible economy. I may paint something that I really think people are going to like, and I'll post it, and it'll get very little reaction. Then I'm like, well, okay, I've got to pay the bills, so I need to get another one done right away, that people like. So I'm constantly, painting just to pay the bills, basically.
And are you selling more online, or are you, or because I see you on the conventions all the time? You're a very busy
Right.
person. So is it an equal 50-50 thing, or are you selling more online than in person?
I would say I probably do a little more in online sales. Um, and it just depends on the show. Sometimes I'll have a great show, and I went down in Florida last year and just did awesome. I sold more than half my paintings, which is for an artist, that's amazing. And so it just depends on the show and stuff. But I guess I would say I'm more consistent with the online sales.
And they're all don't mind the question, but they're all original, so you're not replicating one of the other. Each one is its fresh own thing, right?
Right. I don't love prints. I've seen artists, back when I did fine art shows and stuff, try to pass off prints as originals. They might slap a little paint on top of the, picture and go, "Hey, look, it's an original painting." And I hate that. So I do work with Fine Art America a little bit. I have a handful of paintings on there, and they'll replicate, your painting onto anything basically. And that's cool. I don't make much money from it, but here and there I might, make $5 or $10 here or there. But I mean, it is crazy. You can get one of my paintings on a shower curtain, which is kind of amazing and crazy. But but for the most part, no. I just do originals, and I just prefer to sell them like that. I want people to have something in their house that hopefully one day, God willing, would be some sort of heirloom for them.
I mean, I would definitely want more. To tell you the truth, that I was telling you earlier. So then, outside of the Bigfoot, and I know you say you're sometimes you're commissioned to do certain things as well. What kind of other things do you like painting?
I love seascapes, big time into seascapes. Matter of fact, sometimes I'll do just a seascape that I like, nothing paranormal about it. And sometimes though, if it doesn't sell for a while and I'm like, well, I need a sale, I might throw a Loch Ness monster in it. And I've been surprised that that's all it took. Just throw a Loch Ness monster in there and it would sell right away. But no, I love seascapes. I used to do a ton of still lifes. I haven't done any in a long time because I've just been, concentrating on landscapes. But I am thinking about doing more still life kind of stuff. here soon.
Man, look, I'm looking forward to seeing your new prints because, as I said, I do follow your socials, and I see every time you say I got a new one, it gets a lot
Yeah.
of great reviews and hearts and thumbs up. So that's pretty awesome. And moving away from the painting for a second, because I know you know where we're going to go here, but you're also a musician as well, correct? And what instrument do you play?
I used to play drums. I haven't played in a long time, but there was a period of time in the early '90s where I was in a band that did really well. And yeah, I tell everyone I came very close to becoming a rock star, but I did not become a rock star.
What style of music were you playing?
We were playing heavy metal. I'm trying to think a good comparison. Um, we were all heavily influenced by Queensryche, if you know them. We
Yeah.
were kind of into those guys, but we had maybe a little more bluesy kind of touch to it. So it was kind of it was heading towards a progressive metal type thing at the end.
Sure, because bands like Queensrÿche and Fates Warning, that was kind of
Oh yeah,
the thing back in the early '90s, progressive
yeah,
metal and whatnot. So the reason I bring this up because I know we touched on it last time you were here in episode 13, but I love hearing that story. If you don't mind sharing that story one more time, where you had some sort of an encounter, an experience with some sort of being at a club right before one of your shows.
yeah. I don't mind telling this at all. This is an absolute crazy story. It happened when I was in high school. I had started this band when I was in high school, and we had decided to put on a big show. We all saved up money, and we rented this kind of it. I can't even describe what it is. It's a music hall, but there's like nothing to it. It's just like this big, oh, I don't want to say barn, but it was just a big open space with a stage, is basically, and it did have kind of like a snack bar. Well, we rented it out. We saved our money, rented all this equipment and everything, and we're all excited. And like I said, there's nothing to this building. There's like two big garage doors that you load in and out, and then one door that when they open the doors for the public that you come in and out. That's it. Um, so we were setting up for this show, and we were almost done. We had done the last things, and we were all meeting by the soundboard to basically say goodbye to each other and hype each other up for tomorrow. So we go to the soundboard and we're talking, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we hear this high pitched cackling, laughing, um, super loud, and it was like the like someone had heard the funniest thing ever, and they were just laughing their head off. And we look up, and on the stage, on top of one of our big bass speakers, was this guy sitting there. This small guy. When I say small, I don't mean like like a abnormally small. I just short guy sitting on this speaker, just laughing his head off, and it's super creepy right away. Everyone's like looking at each other, like, "What is this guy doing here, and how did he get in?" And we're like, "He must have got in before we shut the garage doors somehow." So I mean, but everyone's like, "No, we probably would have seen him." But anyhow, everyone's like, "Someone go talk to him." So of course, everyone pushes me forward. So I kind of, hesitantly walk up to this guy and I'm like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And he says, "Hey, I got something for you. You're going to love this." And I'm like, "Okay, what is this? Drugs? What is this?" And he reaches behind his back. I don't even know how he pulled these out, but he had a stack of Polaroids in between his fingers, a stack that I don't even know how he could have picked them all up at once. Anyhow, these were extremely pornographic explicit pictures on these Polaroids. And as soon as I realized what they were, I was like, oh, okay, this guy's a pimp or something. And I'm like, listen, no, I'm not interested in that. I am totally not interested in that. And he's like, hey, he said, all right. He's like, listen, I can get you anything. And I'm like, okay, this maybe this is drugs or something. And I was like, no, believe it or not, we're a metal band, but I don't think any of us do drugs. And he was like, well, listen, I can get you anything. And then he kind of stopped and he was looking at me like real intently. He was like, listen, I can get you anything. And the way he said it creeped me out. I realized he wasn't just saying, I can get you drugs or something. He was offering me something else, and I freaked out. And luckily, just about that time, one of the other guitar players walked up, and of course, he was wanting to go through the Polaroids, and I grabbed him. I'm like, no, Scott, we're not going to do that. So we walked back to the soundboard, and in the time it took for us to kind of huddle, and them to ask, or they were asking me like, what do you want? And you know how you kind of, before you talk about someone, you look over your shoulder to see if they're listening or close. In the time it took me to do that, he was gone. Absolutely gone. I have no idea where he went. He would have had to walk by us to get out of the building. And, the garage doors were shut. He would have had to open those. We would have heard it. And there was only one other door in the building. And he would have had to walk right by us to get out. And it was insane. And we all were, matter of fact, we all looked around. We all thought he's got to be hiding, It's like, we don't want him in this place, with our gear and stuff. And so we searched the place. The guy was not there. And I have no explanation. This guy just came out of nowhere and went into nowhere. And everyone calls it when I tell them the story, they're like, it's your crossroads moment. Maybe he was going to offer you, fame and fortune if you sell your soul or something. I don't know about that. But in hindsight, it did kind of feel like if I would have stayed there and had that conversation, maybe that's where it would have gone. I don't know. I was extremely poor and did want to make it so bad. It was my whole world. And I don't know. I think I was being kind of tempted that day. So that's that story, basically.
And while you're telling that story, I really thought the same thing, that he might have been offering you some sort of deal or a record deal of some sorts, or perhaps some sort of Faustian bargain. I don't think it was worse
Absolutely.
losing your soul over. So this apparition or this being disappeared. Did it leave anything behind? And I'm not trying to be funny. Did the Polaroids drop on the floor? Did he take them with him?
No, he took him with him. There was nothing, no trace. And people have asked me, what did he look like? And I say the closest description I can give you is if you've ever seen the movie The Shining, the very famous movie The Shining. Do you remember the groundskeeper? I'm sorry. His played by, I believe his name is Scatman Carruthers, I think, an old actor from back in like the 70s. He looked like him. He was about that size, maybe a little shorter, but that's what he looked like. And he looked completely human. Just the way he talked just would creep you out to no end.
That's been a number of years ago. And have you ever, outside of this show, have you ever talked to your old buddies from the band and discussed it? Like, hey, you remember when this happened?
That is really crazy because I did. Matter of fact, before I did the first podcast where I had told this story, I called my sister, my sister actually had ran our lights at shows. And she was actually married to our guitar player, and I asked her, I'm like, you remember the guy, right? She didn't remember, which I to this day, every time I see her, I keep going, are you sure you don't remember that? I'm like, you have to have remembered that. And she absolutely does not remember it. So I don't know what to make of that. And
Wow.
I really haven't talked to any. Oh, my brother-in-law, the guitarist I was saying about, same with him. He does not remember it. So, and I haven't talked to any other guys about it. Just we've all gone separate ways. Really don't keep in touch.
That's very interesting. Perhaps it was a message for you.
Yeah, I've thought about it for a long time, and when I asked my sister about that, that was probably about 3, 4 years ago. And I was absolutely floored that she didn't remember it. I'm like, this was a pivotal thing in my life. You do not remember that. And she just, no, don't remember it at all. I don't know how she could have not remembered it. I mean, when we left that place, we were all white as ghosts, freaked out. So I don't know what to make of that at all.
No, looking back, and if that message was right for you, I think you made the correct decision, my brother.
Oh yeah, yeah. I hope. Yeah. Oh well, I'm sure I did. Yeah, I would not want to do some crazy, weird, sell my soul deal.
No, I understand. I know you and I were both heavy metal guys, especially me back then. You would have never recognized the way I look as of today.
Same here.
But did you have any ex- experiences prior to that event?
Um, no, not really. I had a couple weird things later on, but before that, no. I don't think I had anything paranormal in any way happen.
No, that's very interesting. But then we moved from that event, and I think we talked about it on the pre-interview, and I kind of laughed a little bit because you told me of the setting of where this next story is going. Um, so if you don't mind sharing that one, because I don't think I've heard this one yet.
Okay, you might not have. I tell people I have two of the most unique, weird paranormal stories you're ever going to hear. But this other one I would call almost a polar opposite of the one I just told. This is, I think, I think it was an angel encounter, if I had to call it anything. And of all things, it involves a toilet,
Uh-huh.
which I know is weird. But let me explain. So when my wife and I were right after we had kids, we financially we're not doing great. We were just barely hanging in there, as a lot of young couples do. And we just did not have a ton of money. And one day our toilet just stopped working, and I realized we were going to have to get a new toilet. And there was no way I could hire anyone to put it in. And I was all like, how hard could it be? I'm like, I can do this. So, I thought, well, I'll take it out and I'll just put it back in exactly the way I took it out. Easy. So I did that and got a new toilet, put it on, and it didn't go on right. There was something wrong with it. And I was completely baffled. And I worked with it and worked with it. I just could not understand why it was not sealing right. I did everything right. So I kept going to hardware stores and asking their so-called plumbing experts. I'm like, here's my situation. Nobody had any helpful, tips, no idea. And matter of fact, I was starting to get really frustrated. And this went into a few days. And my family was getting irritated with me. They were like, we're tired of going in a bucket. This thing needs repaired now. And I was embarrassed. I'm the guy who's supposed to take care of this. And it was really bothering me. And then one day, one of my friends stopped by, and his dad had been a plumber for years and years, and he had worked with his dad. And I was like, oh, thank God, this guy will have the answers. He came in and looked at it, same thing, baffled, no idea, could not figure it out. And I couldn't believe it. He just had to leave. He was like, I'm sorry, I really can't help you. I had no money to get a plumber in there. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was really stressing out. The family was, getting irritated. I mean, they were understanding, but very annoyed. And I just didn't know what I was going to do. So I decided to go one more time to a hardware store and just at least walk up and down the aisles, and maybe I would see something that would spark an idea or something. And so I went to, I don't know if you have them there, but it's a hardware store called Menards. And I was in the plumbing section, just kind of fuming, kind of just really, really depressed about the whole thing. And there was this guy about 20 feet away. He looked younger than me, and he looked like someone who just wanted to talk. Just like maybe just some sort of person who maybe didn't have a lot of friends. I can't even explain it, but it's just one of those kind of people who maybe a lot of people don't want to talk to him for whatever reason, and he just seemed like he wanted to chat me up. And being in the mental state I was, I absolutely did not want to talk to this guy. And he was like, what are you working on? And I was like, I just, I was kind of blowing him off. I was like, listen, I got this plumbing problem I'm just trying to deal with. And he kept just kind of, bugging me about it, just kept saying, no, really, tell me what you got going on. And so I was like, all right, basically to getting just out of my face, it was like, okay, well, I've got this toilet, I got this thing, it doesn't seem to fit, I don't understand the seal, and I was telling him all about it. And he walks like 10 feet away and grabs this part. I don't know where this part came from. I don't remember ever seeing it. But he grabs this part and he gave it to me. And he says, and he told me, this is exactly how you have to put this in. And he told me in very great detail exactly how to put it in. And then I'm sitting there stunned. And I'm looking at the part and I'm like, I think this is exactly what I need. And he walks away. At this very same time, my wife walks up to me. She had been in another part of the store. She walks up and she's like, who's that guy? And I'm like, you will not believe this. I'm like, he just handed me the part I think that will fix this whole thing. I said, I think he just solved my problem. And she said, did you thank him? And I said, I think I did. And then I was like, I got to find that guy. I'm definitely going to thank him, And like I said, he had just left my eyesight, And I saw him walk into the next, turn the corner to go into the next aisle. And I ran down there. Well, I didn't run, but I, went down there to find him, and he was not there. I went all up and down those aisles in the plumbing, going, where could this guy have gone? And I'm not going to say I went through the whole store, but I went through quite a bit of the store looking for this guy. And I'm convinced he was not there. It was amazing just how this guy came out of nowhere, solved my problem, and then just walked away. He didn't even buy anything. I mean, he didn't grab anything that I saw, it was like he was just put there to solve my problem and then walk away. And I took that part home, put it in exactly like he said, fixed it. Everything was great. So, I've had some people go, it could be, just some, maybe some weird plumber just happened to be that. I'm just like, nah, I don't think so. If you would have seen this guy, you would have thought the same. I mean, he looked almost a little homeless too, So it was really strange. It was really strange. But Yeah, totally solved my problem. It was amazing.
No, absolutely strange because you've had several people take a look at this issue that you were having, did not have a solution. A
Hmm.
stranger out of nowhere, not only obviously a stranger you never met before, but right place, right time. All of a sudden he says, "Oh, here's your part." It's one in a million.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, just, and it's just, I probably walked by that section a million, well, not a million, but a ton of times, and to not even notice that part, you know, I mean, I have no explanation. It was crazy. It was divine. And that's all I can say.
And I believe you're 100% correct on that one because
Hmm.
something like that does not happen every day. And then let's go back to the reason why I brought you back on the show. We're going to circle back to your new book. It's a collection of all your art in all in one book. Your Bigfoot expedition has recently been released. And how did this come about? Who approached you to say, "Hey, let's put all your art in one book so that way people can have it at home"? And it's a hardback, right?
Yeah, yeah. It was great. I had done a calendar with another publisher before, and I had modest success with that. It was okay, but I had this idea, for a coffee table book, and I had mentioned it a couple times, in post and stuff, and a lot of people were like, "That's a great idea. You got to do that." And so I there's a friend of mine who is a writer, and I noticed, she had a book that just came out with her publisher, and I told her, I was like, "Yeah, I'm thinking about changing publishers, and do you think, your publisher might be interested in at least hearing this idea?" And she's like, "Yeah, yeah, hit him up." And so I did, and I said, I've got this idea for this book. It's kind of a coffee table book, but it's also kind of a challenge. You've got to find, the hidden Bigfoot in the pictures, And and she was like, "Well, that doesn't sound bad at all. That sounds kind of cool." So we worked it out, and so we started working on it. And as we went, I said, "You know what? I realized I didn't want to just put a bunch of random paintings in there. It's like, why don't I connect these?" And so I decided to put a bit of a story. It's not really like, a story. It's just a bit of a narrative that connects all the paintings. And so it's a year-long expedition. You basically start in the spring, and in each scene you have to write down how many Bigfoot you think are in that scene, each painting. And so you go through, spring, summer, fall, winter, and then at the end of the book, I have kind of like thumbnails of the paintings with where the Bigfoot are circled, so you can go back and check. And did you find them all? And so, I mean, yeah, I'm not going to lie. There is a Where's Waldo element to it, but I think this is a bit cooler, and I'm finding that this is very popular with adults as well as kids, mostly adults. Matter of fact, somebody from England said the other day, they were like, "I think I'm too old to have owned this." I'm like, "No." I'm like, that's mostly who buy my work. They're adults. This is, not really a kid's book, but it could be. But it's kind of, it goes for all ages, really. And people are really having fun with it. It's got 5-star ratings. I don't think I've got anything below 5 stars. And it's been kind of on and off a top new release for quite a while. So it's it's going well. It's paying off finally. So
Excellent. And you're definitely a 5-star artist. But
bless you.
for thank you for the listeners of Let's Find Out that want to purchase your book and learn more about your paintings, where can they go find out?
Okay, for the book, you can just go on to Amazon and just put in Your Bigfoot Expedition, or you can just look up my name, Timothy Wayne Williams, and yeah, you'll find it that way. Um, I am mostly all on social media now. I've got rid of my website probably since last time I talked to you. Just I do I was doing 99% of my business through social media, so I was like, I don't even know why I have a website anymore. So if you find me at TW Williams Fine Arts on Facebook, or Timothy underscore Wayne underscore Williams underscore on Instagram. That's the best. Um, I'm on X, but I'm rarely on X, but it's at TW Williams Art. So any one of those, and you could find me.
Great. And my friend, I'm looking forward to seeing you again on the road. It was awesome seeing you earlier this year after a year and a half having
It was
you on
great
back
seeing
then.
you, man. That was super cool.
It was. We took an epic picture and everything. I put it on social,
Yeah.
and I'm for doggone sure I'm going to pick up another painting and add it to my beautiful collection in the studio.
Love that.
I really appreciate having you on, my friend.
Hey, I'm honored. Anytime. Love it.
Thank you, my friend. This has been another excellent episode of Let's Find Out with Diego. Please check us out on all our social media pages, as well as on YouTube and Rumble. Like, share, and subscribe. Also, Let's Find Out is on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. Catch the show on Saturdays at 2 a.m. For more information, please visit KGRADB.com. That's KGRADB.com. Together, we will get one step closer to finding out. Thank you for taking this journey with me. Until next time, my friends.
Let's find out with Diego, the power of Diego Mania.
All content for Let's Find Out is property of co-host Diego and is served directly from our servers with no modification, redirects, or rehosting. All celebrity impersonators are paid performers. The impersonated celebrities do not endorse or promote any views or opinions expressed by our guests, co-host Diego, or Let's Find Out. The information shared on Let's Find Out is provided on an as-is basis, with no guarantees of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness.